Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
7:06 on WMAL. This is the place where Washington comes talk. I'm Brian Wilson. He's Brian Neiman, doing double duty today and doing it well, by the way.
Thank you very much. I try.
We're joined on the line now by Alex Mooney, the Maryland GOP chairman, because this is
Primary day.
Primary day in Maryland, in D.C., and also in the state of Wisconsin, where a lot of the focus has been. But, let's talk about the local races as well. Mr. Mooney, thanks for joining us here.
Sure thing. Glad to be with you.
All right, so what are the big races that, beyond the presidential races, we'll get into in just a moment, what are the big races that are catching people's attention in the state of Maryland?
Well, there's an interesting U.S. Senate race to see which Republican gets to take on Ben Cardin in the general election. I think there's 8 candidates running. The two with the most support and financial resources, Richard Douglas and Dan Bongino, both good guys running good races. So that's going to be a close one as far as the primary goes. And then I guess after that you have the 6th congressional district out here in western Maryland, where the Democrats, O'Malley, has gerrymandered the district in an attempt to defeat longtime incumbent Roscoe Bartlett. They want to have 2 liberal Democrats from Montgomery County in Washington, D.C., and 0 from western Maryland. So there is a primary there, both on the Republican side, but really more interestingly on the Democrat side. The state senator for whom the district was gerrymandered is facing a tough race from a wealthy businessman. So those are some of the local races. A lot of others too, but those are the big ones.
Now, in the state of Maryland, one reads that Mitt Romney is going to do very well, maybe pick up 25% of the vote, are leading by 25 points, I think I read.
Yeah, that's what the polls seem to say, and I've learned over time polls are actually pretty accurate. He's never stopped running after he ran 4 years ago. In Maryland, he just kept coming straight through, kept his organization together. He's got a lot of name ID out here. I will say that Newt Gingrich has spent 2 days this past week in Maryland. He was here in Frederick all day yesterday. He was in Annapolis, Eastern Shore area this past Tuesday, a week ago. And so as far as who's given us the most attention, it's definitely Newt Gingrich. And, Santorum has some supporters too. Ron Paul came out to the University of Maryland. So, and Romney came about a week or so ago, a brief stop. So at least we got some attention. And, the pockets of Eastern Shore and Western Maryland are more rural and conservative. So it's possible, since we vote by congressional district, it's possible that Santorum and Newt Gingrich could win one of those and Romney could win the others.
I know it's always an uphill fight for Republicans in general elections. And right now, of the candidates you have out there running for Senate, you have a couple of really good candidates.
We do.
And I'm curious as to get your take on the bench that's out there for the Republican Party in Maryland politics, because nationally or statewide recognition, really, there aren't many Republicans outside of Bob Ehrlich and Michael Steele who would register, throughout the state. Will there be money for whoever comes out of this Republican primary to go against Ben Cardin?
Yeah, it would depend. I think the national money would come in if the polls showed it was close. Michael Steele gave Ben Cardin a real run for his money 6 years ago and kept him to 40, I think it was 54% of the vote is what Ben Cardin got.
Right.
In a state that's 2-1 Democrat by registration, but not as liberal as people think. And, he got a lot of national money at that time. And Ben Cardin is extremely left-wing. He's not really impressive in anything he does, and I think he's vulnerable. And but I don't think the money's going to come in unless just politically pragmatically speaking, unless there's some poll showing it's at least close enough that it's winnable. And we won't know that till basically September, October. But we do have great candidates. A lot of folks running for office. We need to have them run run good campaigns and then keep running until they win.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Do you often find that it's hard to find really the top-tier candidate? I mean, you've got some good people running, but do you often find that Republicans are hesitant to get into the race because they look at the number of Democrats in the state as compared to the number of Republicans, and they say, man, there's no way I'm going to win that, so they don't even jump in the game. Is that something you have to fight?
Yeah. You have to fight the mentality to show that we can win. Not just statewide, but even congressional districts. We did pick up we knocked off a Democrat in 2010 Andy Harris, State Senator Andy Harris, beat Frank Cradaville to go to Congress on the Eastern Shore. And there are other congressional districts where we can win. Bob Ehrlich proved that you could win in 2002 when he did win, but then he was not able to get reelected, and so you still have people questioning it. We got to look at all the races, even local races. The majority of the county commissioners are controlled by Republicans in Maryland, not the big counties like Baltimore City, Prince George's, and Montgomery County, but most of the smaller and medium-sized counties are now Republican-controlled. I think we have a chance of picking up some congressional districts in the future. And really, there's ways we can win as conservative grassroots with referendums. The Maryland legislature, with Martin O'Malley's push, passed, for example, gay marriage this year, and we can petition that to referendum and stop it. Otherwise, it's going to become law.
All right, so here's the second part of that question. Do you feel like that I lost my train of thought there, Brian?
Well, here's my question, though. You said Bob Ehrlich was, proved that Republicans can win. But did Bob Ehrlich prove that Republicans can win if there is a really bad Democratic candidate against that person for the Republicans? I mean, there are certainly no perfect candidates, and Kathleen Kennedy Townsend did prove to be a pretty poor candidate. Yeah. And I think at the end, a lot of the undecided voters, that even our Democrats said, I just can't vote for her. She's just not ready to take control of the government. So I think you need a good year, a good Republican candidate. Sure, it always helps if the Democrat candidate has flaws. All candidates have flaws somewhere.
Right. I remember now what my question was. I wanted to know what you think about this idea that that Democrats, can absolutely trash Republicans in the state of Maryland, and whether or not you feel that, given what's going on with the governor and his desire to raise taxes, that maybe Republicans would have a stronger case this time around. Do you sense a change out there? People irritated with the one-party system that has largely dominated Maryland politics?
Yeah, yes, I do. And I think Bob Ehrlich made that case very well in his last campaign, and he was just massively outspent at the end. But, yeah, absolutely, I hear that. You've got an out-of-control legislature. Most places around the country, they're trying to control spending and control taxes. Maryland's going the opposite direction. Our spending is going up $1 billion every year. We don't have the money. Then they're trying to take taxes, and people leave the state. It's a disaster what the one-party rule is doing. A total disaster. We do have an opportunity. I want to make sure I get this in. There's an organization called MDPetitions.com, MD for Maryland, petitions, plural, MDPetitions.com, where we can petition things to referendum. These congressional districts are being put to referendum. Last year, in-state tuition for illegal immigrants was passed, and this group successfully petitioned that to referendum so the voters can decide this November, do we want to give in-state tuition to illegal immigrants? Do we want this ridiculous gerrymandered congressional districting plan, which has gone way too far in partisanship? Do we want homosexual marriage? And those will be put to a vote in November. If we do our job as conservatives, all three of those bills were pushed through by Democrats. I think they're wildly unpopular with the people of Maryland. I think they'll reject all three and start wondering why they've been voting Democrat all these years. Yeah. Maybe come around.